I think we're
We're
live.
live. Okay, awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to an outdoor session of Canadian Mortgage Weekly. Today is episode 35. We are at the Barrie waterfront. You can see the awesome buildings across the way. It's an awesome day out here,
Yeah.
Joe. Just to introduce the co-host for today's video is Joe Bladek. Joe, you've been in the industry for over 10 years. You are super well educated on anything mortgages. You live in Aurelia with your family, but we service all of Ontario. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode, Joe.
Thanks very much, Sam. It's great to be here. The weather is fantastic. We have a boat speeding through Kempenfelt Bay there. People inflating up their kayaks, getting ready to go. It's really a great day, Sam. So thanks you for the great introduction. And I'm really excited to do this live episode with you all today because it's a really special episode celebrating something here for Canadian Mortgage Weekly. And Sam Thompson, I just want to introduce him as well to you all. Sam Thompson is a mortgage professional in Barrie, moved here from Ottawa just over a year and a half ago now. And Sam is married and he helps those who are looking to get a mortgage anywhere in Barrie or Aurelia, Simcoe County, and all over Ontario as well. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, we have a really good one today. So
Yeah.
it's episode 35. We want to do something really fun,
Yes.
exciting. We will be going over 2021. We will cover some news first before we get there, but it's been a very turbulent year. We've seen a lot of stuff up and down. We're getting lots of smiles here at the waterfront.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been all over the place. So we really want to cover off really some key moments for this year.
Yeah, it will be a great episode as we dive into these key moments. And as we're doing this episode, I just want to invite anyone who has a question or a comment, just mark it down below or send us a private message. We can definitely work on your specific scenario. But yes, it's been a fantastic, crazy mortgage year. As you know, Sam, I'm really passionate about mortgages, and just going over these items today will be fantastic. So before we get into that, maybe we should talk about the news that's happening in today's market.
Absolutely. And, it hasn't really changed much, but the rates, we're still seeing them. They are still low.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple dips. Me and Joe were going over the data this morning, and we're seeing it's in a really tight range. We see some rises, some falls, but overall, it's really stayed very consistent over the last while.
It has stayed consistent, Sam, yes. And we're talking about fixed rates right now. And in terms of that, with that tightening range, it could go up from there or it could go down from there. So time will tell. And when we get into the fall, I think that will be the next sort of caveat as to which way these rates will go.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can always be, updated in a few weeks for the variable rate. There is going to be the Bank of Canada rate announcement, and we will cover that. That'll be Wednesday. I believe it's September the 8th or the 18th. Either way, we will confirm that, and we will have coverage for that because, as we're saying, the fixed rate hasn't done too much, but it'll be great to keep an idea of where the variable rate's at and what's it's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Keep an eye out for Canadian Mortgage Weekly as we move through the variable and fixed rates, and we'll keep you updated on that. But the main thing that we're seeing right now, and it's a surprise thing, Sam, is that there's an election this September, and that's happening really quickly.
It is. I think it's a 5-week
5-week
election period, which is super short. Yeah,
super short, and it's really going to be interesting to see what each party has in mind specifically for the housing market.
Absolutely. I think that will be definitely something that we can keep updated with all of our viewers of, what each party is bringing to the table in terms of housing, because I think, as we'll see for this year, there's been so much going on with COVID that, a lot of, especially first-time buyers, prospective homeowners are wanting some sort of change, something to happen. So we'll see what each of the parties are looking to offer for, maybe new policies or what their agendas are for that.
Exactly. So stay tuned to Canadian Mortgage Weekly as we go through that. There have already been some announcements by some parties. We won't get too into it today, but some notable things that we spoke about this morning, Sam, is the Liberals and Conservatives both have a very in-depth plan for housing. And we'll go into depth about that in the following weeks. But I think we should get into our topic today, and that's the 2021 year in review.
Absolutely, yeah. We just crossed the the halfway mark. We're entering into the third quarter, which was, it's supposed to be quite busy, but there's been a lot of year and there's been a lot of, changes and things happening in the mortgage industry since the start of 2021.
Yes, there really has. As you all remember, 2021, we were still in the middle of a pandemic. It seems to be like things are good now. We'll wait and see. But, in the middle of a pandemic, a lot of economists were talking about how prices could possibly crash during the pandemic, but we saw quite the opposite.
Absolutely, yeah. I think heading into the spring, February, March, we saw prices at an all-time high. They were houses were going much oversold. They were, it was such a fast and aggressive market that we saw. I don't think anyone was really expecting, especially in the springtime, to see a market as busy as we saw this past year.
I agree, Sam. And with that, there was a lot of folks that did buy houses in the beginning of the year, and it did take a lot of that demand and bring it to the start of the year. We're seeing a little bit of a lull demand right now, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, what a crazy year that was. And because of that raise in prices, also, we saw a lot of folks that owned houses have their equity increase this year tremendously.
Absolutely. It was definitely a big win. I know that we were doing some videos with some realtors earlier in the year, and they were saying, especially, if you were thinking of offloading a second property or a rental property, it was a fantastic, point in the market to sell at that super high price point.
It definitely was. So that's one thing we saw, Sam, is I think the market, we saw the peak in housing prices in the February of March of 2021, like you're saying. It's going to be interesting to see if we surpass that peak in the future and how long it takes the average home price in Canada to surpass that peak.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll definitely keep our eyes on this fall when we're expecting it to do a bit of a jump. But yes, and covering off another big thing that, really hit, especially a lot of first-time buyers, was the stress test increase. We saw that happening early in June this year.
We really did, yes. And that took us by surprise because the stress test originally was very, very ill received by a lot of Canadians. And a lot of people in our industry, the mortgage industry and real estate industry, really didn't think that the original stress test was a good thing. But now that we have it increased, that's really impacted a lot of our home buyers.
It really has. I know that was, again, a concern for a lot of first-time buyers. And then the fact that it increased even further in a time where they didn't feel that they could buy. I think the numbers worked out to be about 7% less buying power, which, especially, when we were saying, coming off of a hot spring where prices were higher than they have been, it was hard to get a property. To have that extra stress test, it affected tons of people.
It really did, yes. And it was really across the board. Not only did they increase the stress test for insured mortgages, but they applied it also to uninsured mortgages. And that applies to anyone who has a lot of equity in their home, perhaps has a very small mortgage, and doesn't have to get mortgage insurance. They still need to go through this stress test as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It impacts every buyer now that we're looking at. So it was a very hot topic and a big point of news for this year.
Yeah. The next item that we wanted to discuss with you, because there are a lot of items that happened this year in 2021 that we need to cover. Number 3 is that CMHC reverted some of their changes that they originally announced in 2020, which is really good news. That was some of the better news that we saw in 2021, Sam.
Absolutely, yeah. I know that they had made some very, some might consider some extreme changes in, their policies, their guidelines. And we saw a lot of our mortgages were being insured through, alternative sources like Genworth, which is now Sagan.
That's correct.
And Canada Guarantee. But again, it was a huge win this year when they made some changes to revert, policies that they introduced, and even credit scores that they had implemented in 2020, we saw some reverts for that.
Exactly. Yes. So the minimum credit score you need now with 5% down is only a credit score of 600, which is really good because last year the changes had increased it to 680.
Yeah,
And
that's
we see the
right.
boats on there. That's great. The Barrie waterfront is a really good place, and I'm really liking the fact that we're doing this live episode here today.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun being out here. You know, get to see people. There's a lot of bustle in downtown Barrie as is. It looks like there's something going on down at the Meridian Center, but yeah, it's great to be out here.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And as we get into the other items, I just want to remind everyone we are doing a contest today. So if anyone does want to show up today and do a live shout out on our show today behind us, come find us here, and we are giving away a $100 Canadian Tire or a Homesense gift card to anyone that comes out this morning, not including friends and family, of course. But anyway, going further into the next item, there's also a currently a lull in the market I'm finding.
There is. We've been seeing, you know, prices are getting a bit softer. There's a bit more opportunity for buyers to get in the market, but we haven't necessarily seen that translated in the number of sales we've been processing, or, you know, in the attitudes that we're seeing from a lot of buyers.
Exactly, Sam. We're seeing a lot of people shy away from the market right now. People are not really jumping in as we think they would have, because we saw the prices higher in February, March when people are buying in, but they're just lower now. We're seeing tremendous opportunity to get in on some of these homes that were for sale earlier this year at a price point that is much more competitive today.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back a bit to just almost, yeah, like they referred to it earlier in the year as fear of missing out. You know, people are having FOMO. They're seeing, oh, my neighbor's buying a new house now, you know, maybe in your social circle, people are jumping on it. So we really want to encourage you, if you haven't reached out, if you haven't gotten a pre-approval or chatted with a mortgage professional, now is a great time to get that pre-approval. We can get you a rate hold while the market is still slow, before, you know, things start to increase and pick up speed this fall.
That's a really good point, Sam, because we're seeing that not only right now in real-time data, but a lot of economists have come on and professionally have indicated that in the fall, we're expecting the housing market to really ramp up.
Yeah.
We will have kids going back to school, and those parents now will have the time to move and pack. That will be one thing. A lot of people have been waiting to move.
Yeah.
So now that the pandemic is over, or mostly over, and things are opening up, those people that were waiting until the pandemic was done, they're going to be now finally making that move. So we're going to see a lot of activity in 2021.
Absolutely. And especially in the fall, you know, segueing into our next point, we had seen an article where there was expected to be a large group of immigration happening this fall as well. Again, people that, you know, maybe, you know, hadn't made the move into Canada yet, but there is expected to be a big boost of that this fall, which will directly affect the housing market if they're all looking for homes or even rental properties.
Yeah, exactly, Sam. With immigration, Canada is very pro-immigration, and with the number of immigrants coming into Canada, we're seeing them by the thousands. So this year, we're planning as a country to ramp up immigration again. Thousands of people are ready to be express admitted into Canada.
Yeah.
If you're new to Canada, please contact us. There are specific programs available to you. There are really good programs available to you to help you with your credit score, to be able to buy with no credit, and also with low or very short amount of job history. And Sam, you know all about the New to Canada program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped a lot of people get their foot in the door, because it's usually the, you know, the area where we find their files or applications are weakest is just exactly as you were saying, maybe credit history. They don't quite have a lot established. You know, they've attained permanent residency, but they haven't been employed for, you know, 3-year history. So there's a lot of programs and insurers that will offer, you know, a little bit of relaxed and more lenient programs for new to Canada people.
Exactly. If you're looking at coming to Canada in the next few months, contact me or Sam right away.
Mhm.
We can get started on getting you prepared for your Canada entry. And then once you're in Canada, we can show you the exact steps you need to take to get into a home within the first few months of ownership, within the first few months of being a permanent resident in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, Sam, I mean, that's a lot of items. I mean, we've covered off 5 major items here that is happening in Canada in the mortgage market in 2021.
Yeah.
But there's more.
There is more. We had read an article previously in the year. I think Joe had found this one. And it was referring to a couple big companies that were making a move into Canada to purchase properties to operate them as rental units. But if we start to see that happen, even in the fall, these corporations purchasing bulk quantities of homes, then that could have a major effect on the housing market.
Yes, it will take away availability of homes from the general public. You, me, and our sisters and brothers and moms and dads, right? And uncles and aunts. Like there's just less available homes now to purchase when companies do that. And they're planning for thousands of units.
Yeah. I think the projection was over either 5 or 10 years, and it was quite a big budget that they had for purchasing all of these homes. So that's definitely something, again, to keep aware of as we move into the later half of the year, and see how that affects any new buyers or anybody, again, just looking to upscale their home, any sort of purchase at all.
That's fantastic. So yes, if you are on the fence right now, seeing big corporations jump into the housing market, they're not doing that because they just feel like it. They've done their research. They've done their due diligence. They see an opportunity in the housing market, specifically in Canada still. So if corporations are jumping in, and right now it's a lull, I mean, this is a good time to start really getting in. But yeah, moving on from big corporations, we saw some real huge activity with lumber prices this year.
We certainly did. It was quite wild to see how high the price of lumber went in 2020 into 2021, and it didn't necessarily stay there, did it?
No, it did not. I mean, we saw lumber spiking right at the beginning of the year. As home prices were spiking, we saw lumber prices spiking. It was almost going in tandem there. And I know a lot of people still needed to go and buy homes. A lot of builders still needed to build homes. So that was not really avoidable, but we did see it going up. We saw a lot of builders actually pre-buying lumber so they could get the yesterday price versus the today price.
That's right. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but moving from that now, we've actually seen lumber, the prices come back down to a realistic level. So if you were a builder or a home buyer that was looking to buy a new home, we should see some of those savings finally being passed down to the consumer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that did influence a bit of a spike in new home builds, just because, again, the builder is not going to eat the cost. It just trickles down to the buyer. So hopefully we'll see a change in the future now that the prices have stabilized a bit.
Exactly. And if you want some more information about how the lumber prices did spike, Sam and I did do a video a few months ago about lumber prices, which you can find on our Canadian Mortgage Weekly YouTube channel. But yes, looking forward, so we've looked at lumber prices. We looked at big corporations buying into the housing market now in Canada. And you know what? There's another one. And throughout all of this, throughout all this crazy activity in the mortgage market in 2021, Sam, we saw that mortgage rates, I mean, they did go really low at the beginning of the year, but they have stayed relatively low all year.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's been a huge thing that we've noticed, that as you're saying, over all of these different things we've noted, the stress test, the peak pricing, immigration this fall, big corporations, lumber prices, through it all, we did see the rates maintaining strong low numbers, which is awesome for, again, anybody who was expecting a bubble pop as well. I think there were some people that were still holding out because they weren't really sure where the market was at, but we saw the rates were staying low all year round, which is great, and a great indicator to get into the market.
It was and is a really great indicator of getting into the market. With mortgages right now in Canada, rates are low. Variable rates are that much lower right now because, you know, it's always cheaper to take that extra risk and do a variable rate mortgage. Stay tuned as we, as Sam mentioned, September 8th, I believe you're right, Sam, but it was September 8th is our next rate update episode for Canadian Mortgage Weekly. Well, where we will update you all on where rates are at for variable rates.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. But just as we are completing today's episode and coming to the end, wanted to thank all our viewers for the last, I guess, 6-7 months now, as we've had a few dedicated viewers comments and share our posts. We've had some guest speakers. We wanted to take a moment and thank our guest speakers, our real estate agents, and everyone who has helped make this show possible in 2021. Of course, I'd like to thank you, Sam, for always being on the show together with me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my pleasure. It's been, yeah, as you're saying, an awesome journey. It's crazy to think that we've been doing this for, 7-8 months now. It's adding up, and we're really ramping into some really good content.
We really are. So with that in mind, we would like to request our viewers to help us with the next few episodes of content. We have maybe in September, we would like to do some viewer requests. So if anyone has any ideas as to what you would like us to talk about or focus on, we would love to dive into any specific mortgage topic that interests you. So send us a private message or leave us a comment below on this channel. But before we end off today's episode, of course, we're doing our contest. No one's come yet, so we'll just open it up for a few more minutes here. And then we'll introduce next week's episode. So we have episode 36 next week.
Yeah, episode 36. It's going to be a good one. Again, we had noted that some of the biggest news that we, had heard, and it's really a big buzz, is the new election. And it'll be really good to, take a deep dive into what each party is offering for the housing market, what their plans are, and how we can, see that affect all of the home buyers. If you're a homeowner already, seeing how these policy changes will affect your home ownership, goals or status.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good episode. Join us next week as we do dive into that. We'll make sure we get every party's housing plan for 2021 congregated here for the episode, so you guys will have a one-stop source for all your needs as to what housing, what party is doing what for Canadian housing in 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've been 20 minutes now. I think we can close it off.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, for Canadian Mortgage Weekly, episode number 35. My name again is Joe Bladek. I'm a mortgage broker here in Simcoe County, and I can help you with your mortgage. And Sam Thompson, also a mortgage professional in Simcoe County. We look forward to helping you with your mortgages. And if you have any questions about anything, leave us a comment below or send us a private message. And yes, thanks for 35 episodes.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right.